All right. Meet Noah. When he was 9 years old, he fell out of a tree in Central Park on recess and broke his ankle. He happened to have broken his ankle in the growth plate, which meant that over the ensuing almost 3 decades, he needed constant revision surgeries to equalize the length of his legs. Okay, and finally he bit the bullet, went to HSS, got a great surgery, and they were able to finally restore his ankle. But the magic ingredient in order to do that, okay, that's the only surgery picture I'll show you, and recovery, was to use a piece of his hip bone in order to repair his ankle. Okay, and although he's doing fine, I met him surfing. He's my fiance. He 3D printed our engagement ring, so he knows his audience. But what he'll say is that he wished he'd met me earlier. Okay, because in a way, it's kind of shocking that this is the way we repair the body. So anyway, I just wanted to start you off with an embarrassing photo of myself. This is me. Everyone has a photo like this. You're 8 years old. You get your first chemistry set, right? And I just introduced myself. So I'm a bit of a nerd, and I found myself in this field of tissue engineering, where we apply tools of engineering towards growing stem cells into living therapies, okay? So for my PhD, I was growing heart tissue, and now in our company that we've spun out of Columbia about 2 years ago after my postdoc, was to grow bone, okay? So this is why Noah wishes he'd met me earlier, because what we do at EpiBone is we combine 3D fabrication with regenerative medicine in order to generate living, personalized bone grafts that are the correct shape and also made from your own cells, okay? After blood, bone is the most transplanted human tissue. This is costing billions of dollars worldwide for these millions of procedures. And it's quite crazy to say that even now, when you need human bone for any of these procedures, ranging from cancer to trauma and congenital defects, the only way to get a piece of human bone is still to cut it out of a human. So why not use the stem cells that repair our bodies every day to make new living therapies? This is how we do it. We take stem cells from the patient and a CT scan in order to get the perfect shape bone. We combine those together in a bioreactor, and after 3 weeks, we have a piece of living bone that's ready for implantation. There are many benefits to this approach. There's a perfect fit, not just physically, but also from an immunological perspective, because it's your own cells. And we hope that, unlike synthetic implants, it can continue to remodel and grow with your own body. As a business, we're based in Brooklyn. We're very happy in our home at the SUNY Downstate Incubator. Those are my colleagues from who we started the company with from Columbia. And we've gotten support from angel investors as well as the NIH and public-private partnerships. So I think when we talk about how do you grow a business based on hard science, that a lot of these things have to come in to play. But because I was given an extra minute to talk about, not just to ask some provocative questions of the audience, I thought I would use this as an opportunity to not just share how excited I am about what we're doing with EpiBone, but also to think about what does this mean more broadly for technology in general. So I love this idea that we're truly at the cusp of a new way to view our bodies. Instead of thinking ourselves as robots, and therefore our best therapies would mean that we are like mechanics. We are truly at an age where we are starting to think about ourselves as composed of cells, ecosystems of cells. And so we can collaborate with those ecosystems of cells, whether they're microbial or human, and come up with new therapies like we are at EpiBone, but also disrupt a whole lot of other industries. So in the next 30 seconds, I'm going to whip you through a ton of examples of these. Okay, so viewing our cells as living building blocks. This is Suzanne Lee. She's Chief Creative Officer at Modern Meadow, where they're using this approach to grow living leather from cells. This is Sangeeta Bhatia from MIT Harvard. She's developed bacteria that glow green in the presence of colon cancer. We are at the age where we can start to think about things like probiotic cancer-detecting yogurt. We've encoded, we've encoded all the works of Shakespeare onto DNA. Researchers at Stanford are making video games out of living microbes. Guys, we're at a really interesting time where we are actually programming bacteria and developing languages for coding the genetic code of bacteria. So I think what's really interesting when we think about what's happening in the world of cells, and as cells become the new data, okay, is not just what can we do with this technology, but what should we do with this technology? So that's my provocative question, and I hope it leads to a good couple minutes of discussion. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
That's provocative. What you're doing is very provocative. And it's great to have you here. You were also at Techonomy Bio, and this is a little bit of a flavor of a whole conference we did last year on life sciences and the intersection between life sciences and data analytics and IT. But talk a little, I love the way you ended it on the very big picture high note, but take it even bigger. I mean, what do you really anticipate we're headed into in terms of human health as a result of the kinds of things you're describing?
Well, I think when we, ultimately, the next level of the next technologies that we're going to be developing are so high tech. I think they're going to help us re-envision what natural is. You know, if we're looking instead of above to the answers or to machines or pills for the answers, if we're looking to within the cells of our own bodies as the source of our own healing, I think this is a very powerful idea, and it's very, it feels like a very positive development.
Yeah, David Agus earlier today was talking about really thinking more of medicine of the whole person, and that's something that's really been missing from most of modern medicine, which was very much about finding the cause and then putting a drug in that addressed that supposed cause.
It makes perfect sense, right? You know, we needed to look at population levels so that we could do things like statistics. And now we're getting back to another level deeper where we can start to think of ourselves as individuals.
So, I mean, give some of the other consequences of that, though. I mean, we will live longer, I assume. I mean, I hope. Is that a given in your mind?
I hope that we'll live longer, healthy lives. Skeletal health, for example, is one of those things like dental health that has a lot of after effects that, like with movement and nutrition, that help us live a longer life where our brain health is maintained. I think we're going to start thinking about our lives in a more, in terms of our healthy, the length of our healthy lives, the length of our lives in which we're participating in things like the economy and in our families.
Okay, who else has a thought or question for Nina? Back there.
Oh, yeah. Hi.
Yeah, fantastic what you're doing. And I want to
Identify yourself real fast.
Sorry. I'm Tracy Lau. I'm a computer person, so I'm not a biologist. But it's wonderful what you're doing. And I wanted to ask, are there going to be applications for growing meat using cellular agriculture, given that you're doing bone? Are you having conversation? I know Modern Meadow, that's one of the projects that we're looking at.
Well, we wouldn't want to steal Modern Meadow's thunder, although they're very good friends of ours. We do joke about maybe helping them with a T-bone steak of the future. But I think we're quite happy to be concentrating on tissue for human implantation for now.
Well, you're located near them too, right?
Yes, I mean, so they are very good friends of ours. We've known them forever, and we're not technically on the same campus. They're in Brooklyn Biobat, and we're in the SUNY Downstate Incubator. So we've looked to them for mentorship over the years. They actually, they helped us learn about Breakout Labs, which was our first source of funding.
But in reality, Modern Meadow got started talking about growing meat. Now they're doing leather because it's easier to do. And it's really commercial to come up with leather that is not involved, doesn't require you to kill cows. But they definitely, I think, long-term, secretly, although they try not to talk about it now, believe that you can do the same with meat, and that's a huge opportunity because we'd rather not have to kill animals to nourish ourselves. But that's, okay, here. Oh, an expert.
Ellen, yes.
Ellen, identify yourself, please.
Ellen Jorgensen, GenSpace Community Lab in Brooklyn. So Nina, this is one thing that I've always wondered about. These technologies like growing bone, there are natural products that are used for other things. Like, Suzanne Lee is talking about using bacterial cellulose for clothing. Is there anything else we could use bone for besides replacing bones?
Well, that's a really fun question. So the last slide that you know what? I wanted to end on this slide, but here's my other slide. There's one more. No more. Well, I'll just tell you about it. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. So we started an artist in residence program at EpiBone last summer, actually, because I think when we think about the can versus should, what should we be doing as a society? What can we do as a society? The more cross-cultural, cross-disciplinary conversations we can have, the better we can do. And although EpiBone, we have to maintain our laser focus on growing bones for skeletal implantation, I do think that it's interesting to explore ways to participate more broadly in the conversation about what could be done. And I tend to do that through work with my students. I'm an adjunct professor at Cooper Union. We both are, and working on that with our students. So as opposed to using the actual company to do that, but the artist in residency program, which was inspired by the Pier 9 residency for Autodesk, I think is another way for us to kind of explore this. So Maya, who was our artist last year, was growing jewelry that was based on coronal CT scans from the pigs that the animal subjects that we were studying. And our second artist, Narit, who is your co-founder at GenSpace, she worked with us to grow living buttons as part of her work, right? So working through collaboration, I think it's fun for us to help artists and others who are interested to enable them to do those types of explorations. But for us as a company, we have our fiduciary responsibility to our investors to keep our laser focus.
I love that you don't forget that the arts are also important. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for being here.
Thank
Really
you for
good to have
having
you,
me.
Nina.
Thank you for your questions.
Thanks so much.